and welcome back to Bitesize Boxing. So there is quite a lot to get through. I will be making videos over the next couple of days talking about the upcoming fights that we've got coming up over the next couple of weekends as well. So quite a lot to get through, but today I want to talk a little bit about the rumour mill, and that is that Frank Warren is potentially lining up Daniel Dubois to face Zhilei Zhang as his comeback fight. So what do we think of this one? I think this is an excellent fight. It's one of those fights that the potential for a fight like this, it makes me want to do a video. A lot of the sort of, news and speculation videos I'm not a massive proponent of, because a lot of it is hearsay and maybe this will happen and maybe that will happen. This is why I haven't really gone too much into detail about the Deontay Wilder versus Alexander Usyk fight. I have mentioned it, but again, we hear different news every day. Or is it going to be Deontay Wilder versus Derek Chisora? Is it going to be Deontay Wilder versus Usyk? Oh look, there's been a date that's been confirmed. Oh wait, no, it hasn't been. Oh no, there's a promoter that says there's going to be involved. Or is there? And it's all this news that's ever changing. Whereas something like this, I just find this really fascinating because it's come from the horse's mouth of Frank Warren. Frank Warren has said that this is a fight that he's looking to make. And so for me, I think, when the promoter of both fighters says that this is what they're aiming for, I think it's fair to speculate. And for me, Zhilei Zhang versus Daniel Dubois is one of those fights that's just really, really intriguing. And I think it's a really fun fight because you've got two guys who punch very, very hard. They're both prolific punchers as well. They're very good at landing, in Daniel Dubois' case, that right hand, and in Zhilei Zhang's case, either that left hand or that right hook as well. He's got power in both hands. And so for me, it's one of those fights that stylistically, there's no way it's going to be a dull affair. Zhilei Zhang is one of those fighters who, if you get outside of the first 5 rounds, you have every chance of beating him, but it's about getting outside of those first 5 rounds. And Daniel Dubois is one of those fighters that, as long as he's landing his shots on you, he will be in there and he'll hang in tough. Yes, his heart has been questioned, and rightfully so, but his heart has been questioned in fights where he's not able to land himself and where he's getting frustrated. I don't see him struggling to land on Zhilei Zhang, to be honest, but likewise, I'm not necessarily sure that Zhilei Zhang will struggle to land on Daniel Dubois. That being said, Zhilei Zhang has clearly slowed down. He's clearly very old, and he's nowhere near quite as, I say prime Zhilei Zhang. He was never an agile or athletic heavyweight, but compared to the version of Zhilei Zhang we've got now, who's 42, 43, he's clearly nowhere near as fleet as foot. He's a lot heavier than he used to be. And so, stylistically, Daniel Dubois, although he's quite stiff and robotic, he has got quite quick feet. He can be in and out with that movement a little bit. And so I can see, in a fight, in this matchup, I would expect Daniel Dubois to be able to get to Zhilei Zhang before Zhilei Zhang can get to Daniel Dubois. But that being said, again, Daniel Dubois has a very porous wide guard. He's straight, he's very stiff and upright. So it's not necessarily outside the realms of possibility that Zhang will be able to land on Dubois. And I think if he does, I think he'll get a response. But likewise, I think both these guys, neither of them are glass cannons. They both have pretty sturdy chins, to be fair. But they both hit very hard. But I do think that they hit hard enough, and I think their chins are... What's the best way of describing it? Say they've both got 7, 8 out of 10 chins, their power is 9 or 10 out of 10, do you know what I mean? So they hit hard enough to get the respect of each other, and I think they hit hard enough to knock each other out. And so because of the way both fighters fight, Daniel Dubois, he can be circumspect, but generally speaking, he's not. And I wouldn't really expect him to be in this fight either, even though he has the ability to theoretically, stay out of harm's way for the first 3 rounds and keep it long. That's not Daniel Dubois' style. That's not his wheelhouse. Although he has the dimensions and such to do it, and you would be well advised to do that against Zhilei Zhang. Daniel Dubois, as we know him, I don't think he is going to necessarily utilise that jab and stick on the back foot the way you might want him to. Yes, he's got a great jab, but he uses that jab as a power jab to basically open the opponent up to step in. So he's not going to be using it to find his range as such as he's going to be using it to find his distance to step in on. So from that perspective, I think it's going to be a crash bang wallop fight, whichever way you want it. So I think it's going to be a really, really fun fight if it does come off. And it's one of those that there are some fights that when they get made, you just say, look, I'll get some of my friends round and we'll sit down and watch it because it's going to entertain. Just like Daniel Dubois versus Anthony Joshua, that you knew that there was no way that would be a bad fight, so it was one of them. I was like, all right, let's get the boys together because I know there's going to be drama. There just will be, and this is one of those fights. The only thing I would say, and although, you know, Dubois is coming off losses and I don't like people getting title shots on the back of losses, providing Dubois gets through this fight, I really want to see the Wardley fight, because for me, Dubois-Wardley is, as weird as it sounds, it's probably my most wanted fight in boxing at the moment. Not because it's the two most elite heavyweights or the two, you know, pound for pound greats or anything like that, but because stylistically, again, there is no way that's a dull fight. That is going to be an absolute war. Dubois isn't going to quit because he's not going to be not landing his shots. He's going to be able to land on Wardley. Wardley's going to be landing on Dubois, and it's one of those where it's just going to be an up and down seesaw affair. There is no way in my mind that Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley is a dull fight. And it's a fight, as I say, I want to see it more than virtually any other fight. Not because, again, these guys are great or anything, but because stylistically, that is just so mouth-watering. You know, you've got two guys, they punch very, very hard. They're both incredibly athletic, at least for, you know, heavyweight terms anyway. You know, they're relatively quick in terms of their hand speed. Foot speed as well, they're not slow, either of them. So, again, it's one of those where you look at it and you just go, you know, that is going to be a really, really good fight should it come off. So, look, if I could wave a magic wand, although I don't like people getting shots on the back of title shots, I would want to see Dubois go straight in there against Wardley, and I'd like to see that. But providing this fight does get set up and Dubois goes through Zhang, I think Zhang Wardley at the back end of the year, maybe September time, something like that, give me that, take my money. I don't like pay-per-view, but I will pay pay-per-view for that because, as I say, it's one of those fights that just will deliver. There's no way it can't. You know, I don't see Fabio Wardley going, oh, well, I better try and outbox him, I better stand on the outside, or Dubois go, oh, I'm a bit tentative of this Wardley fella, I better stand on the outside. It's not going to happen. They're both going to meet in the middle, and whoever lands first, and whoever doesn't gets knocked out. It will be one of those. So that's the fight I really want to see, but providing Dubois gets through this potential fight against Zhang, I think that's what I think a lot of us would want to see, to be honest. Again, it isn't the best of the best. It's not, you know, there are people coming through, the Moses Atamas of the world. For me, I would not be surprised in the slightest if they give either Fury a go at Wardley or they use Atama for Wardley and they basically throw him to the wolves in that regard. They seem like the two kind of fights. I think they'll not necessarily cash Wardley out, but I think they'll try and look at that and think, right, well, we can either get Fury a world title, which of course bolsters the Joshua fight if it does happen, or at least it elevates Fury from where he's perceived right now, obviously on the back of back-to-back losses to Usyk, or they might go, right, well, now's the time we can really push the accelerator on Moses and we can get him a world title, because I think he would beat Wardley, to be fair. So that's what they might do, but again, that's not what I want to see. I just want to see Wardley versus Dubois. I think that'll be amazing. But you let me know what you think. I'll be very interested to know. And yeah, cheers guys. Take it easy.